At Hope Church, we are always talking about what it means to follow, grow, and live for Jesus. But what does that actually look like in your day-to-day life? Follow along with me, Jenny Miles, as we talk to members of our Hope team, partners of our church, as well as staff members, as they share real-life examples of what it looks like to be on journey with Jesus. Get inspired, be empowered, and experience the joy of serving Jesus through Hope Talks. Hey guys, welcome to Hope Talks. Today we have the really cool opportunity to be in this room together as a staff for one, which I am excited for. I haven't had staff on the podcast yet, so it's fun to get to talk candidly with the people that I work with every day. But these happen to be the Hope Kids people, right? So we have Josh Thomas, who is our next gen pastor and over our Hope Kids in all areas. And then Savannah Oliver is here. She's over elementary, our entire elementary hallway. She is in charge of everything that happens out there. And then Tara Underwood is over our pre-K, which it happens to be where my babies are. So yeah. I'm very thankful that they are with you, Tara.
I'm grateful too.
So we're going to talk through Hope Kids today on Hope Talks. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. The way I like to start off episodes with my guests is I like to pin their drink of preference. Like I'm like, oh, what kind of drink are you? And so if I'm being honest with you, I had limited supply when I went to go pick out your drinks.
So thoughtful.
I know. I'm so sorry. I was on a time crunch. I really hate that because, Josh, I'm going to be completely honest. What I envisioned getting you, and I don't know.
What did you envision getting me?
I envisioned a Yoo-hoo with a silly straw.
A Yoo-hoo? I haven't had a Yoo-hoo in years, but I would have.
Would you have enjoyed it?
Crushed that. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
I feel like, Josh, for whatever reason, I love a Yoo-hoo, and I was like, Josh would enjoy it. I just feel like that feels like Josh, but maybe not. So anyway, here's what I did get you instead, okay?
It's not a Yoo-hoo.
Josh got a really sophisticated Starbucks
I'll just
espresso.
drink it with my pinky up.
Yes, do that. It's the little tiny cup.
Espresso and cream. Oh, here we'll have some ASMR for the camera.
Yes.
That was great. There we go.
Right there.
Okay, but here's the reason that I got that one for you is because I feel like you and I are the only two who just really got a lot of use out of the Nespresso machine upstairs.
I'm pretty certain it's only us using it.
Me too. So then I start to feel bad when it gets depleted very quickly because I'm like, whoa, like Josh, we need to slow down.
It's good when you have like 2 a day and you're like, I should stop. My heart is kind of beating a little bit faster than normal. I should really.
But then you hit 4 o'clock and you're like, but I've got so much to get done. I'm going to go get another one. And that's what keeps happening. So anyway, so maybe that'll hold you over for a little while today.
I'm excited.
Okay. Savannah, I got you a Sprite only because I heard you talk about or ask for a Sprite when we went out to eat the other day. But also, you probably don't need the espresso because you are with child.
Yeah, we don't have that much caffeine.
Your doctor would probably be very angry at you.
Right. But again, if I had found silly straws, I would have put a silly straw in there for you just to add to the
straw.
There you go. Okay. All right. So Sprite with a silly straw is what I would have gotten you.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Tara.
Jenny. I can only imagine.
I don't know what. I did not know. Okay, but here's what I was thinking is just the energy that you bring to the table. You reminded me of like the Snapple commercials that used to and the pop.
Yeah.
And that's what made me think. I was like, oh, Tara, Snapple pop. That would be fun. But Snapple drinks come with a twist now. They don't pop anymore.
I would have made a mess.
And the only
and
the only Snapple drinks that I saw were also 0 sugar, and I was like, that's not going to taste good.
That's unfair.
So then I was like, sweet tea.
Sweet tea.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
I love it. Yes.
All right, my sweet tea friend.
Fantastic.
But I'm going to be honest, I get limited selection, so I don't know if that's good sweet tea. But I hope that you enjoy it.
It will be wonderful. It is covered in the blood of Jesus.
Okay, all right.
Yep,
good deal. Okay.
Awesome.
Well,
Did you get yourself like a special drink in this?
I always forget about that part.
No.
So I have a Biscuitville cup sitting on the floor right here, and it's empty. It has ice in it.
With a straw.
Do you want my straw?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'll pass.
Okay. All right, it's not silly, but it's a straw. Anyway, so I hope that you will enjoy your drinks and what I projected onto you guys as what you would enjoy maybe a little bit of.
Perfect.
Anyway, I'm glad that you guys are here. If we could, just really quick, let's go around the table and kind of, what are your family dynamics? What do you enjoy doing? What are your interests? Just what makes you you? Josh, would you like to start?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start. So, kind of family dynamics. I've been married to my wife, dear Danielle, for almost 6 years at this point, which has just been awesome. And then this past January, we had Violet, and so little Violet, she's about 7 months at this point, which is it's just the best. She's so growing every single day.
Beautiful little girl.
I know. We got really lucky. We had a really cute kid.
Yeah, that's a fear. I'm not kidding. At both pregnancies, I was like, oh, what if this baby's not cute? What do you do?
Which feels bad, but I feel like every parent has that in the back of their head of like, really, don't be kind of crazy looking.
Yeah.
You know, all kids are cute. We know this.
But some grow into it later. And
Exactly. So
we'll say that.
I know so she's just fun. So we're just in the stages of everything is new, everything is exciting, the wonder is all over. So we just love doing stuff together. We love getting outside. We love family nights, prioritizing that. We're just big on that. We love playing board games and Dungeons and Dragons because we're nice and nerdy. And,
nice and nerdy. I like it.
You know, I mean, I just love it. You get to play games and tell stories with your friends and that's kind of our dynamic. That's what we're into, and we love it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, Savannah, what you got going on?
Well, I'm
Makes you
married to Tanner, my high school sweetheart.
Sweet.
We started dating when I was 15, and we got married in 2017. So we've been married almost 8 years now. And we have Brody, who is 5. He starts kindergarten next week. And I'm not sure that my heart's ready for that, but I'm just going to roll with it.
I will learn from you. I will revisit next year when it's time for me.
And then we have Braxton. He will be 3 on September 1st, so coming up soon. And then we have another little boy on the way. February. Yeah, boy mom life over here. Yeah. So just loving that. Let's say our dynamic is chaos majority of the time.
I feel like I could insert. We enjoy mud and bugs and
play fighting.
All things outside, mud, dirt, rocks. There's nothing for me to come inside and find a stick or a rock in the corner somewhere. But as a family, we love camping. Yeah. I grew up camping my whole life, not like tent camping. We call it glamping more so because it's a camper and there's air conditioning and a bathroom.
A shower,
Yeah, a shower's nice.
Doesn't seem bad.
No, I'll take that. I like tent camping, but I'd rather have a nice bathroom and air. But so we go with our whole family and that's fun. And life's just holding on right now. Keeping boys alive. So.
That's right. Hey, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right, Tara.
Well,
what many things make you up?
Well, I'm married to Larry, and together we have 4 children, ages from 19 to 28 are our oldest that are grown, and then Faith is going to be 16 in a week from today, driving a vehicle. So pray for me.
Woo.
And I also coach varsity cheerleading and JV cheerleading at Western Alamance High School, so I have those kids as well. And what keeps us ticking is just cheerleading, and we love camping too, but our kids are grown, so we're like, if it doesn't fit in your backpack, it's not going, and we're going to figure this out. So we love just being outdoors and enjoying each other's company, and we're in that season of life that is kind of over the raising part and just sitting back and seeing what we've poured into our kids.
The reflecting part.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
I think I look forward to that. I don't want to rush things or wish it away, but I love the idea that, like, I don't know, Trent and I could go and do something together one day.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Well, I have to find a babysitter.
Right. Yeah. You know, I don't know.
Well, I asked the other day at the restaurant, I said, I wonder if parents, we pray for our children all the time, but I feel like I'm praying for my grown children more intentionally than when they were little, because when they were little, I could see them and they were right there. But I find myself now that we have 3 out of the house and there's just one, you don't have that. I can see them; they're okay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the season. So I think it's a little bit harder when they do get older. There's some great rewards, but there's also the I'm not right there, and I have to give God complete control.
Yeah.
And intentionally, I can say I gave God control when they're right there, but when they really aren't, have to really be mindful of that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Ooh, Yeah, I'm not rushing to it now.
Yeah.
That stresses me out a little, Tara.
Sorry.
No, that's great. I love your perspective. Okay, you guys. So I want to know what it is that draws you to working with kids, because you're not just volunteering with children. Like, you now are full on. You're working with kids. Like, that's your heartbeat. That's what you want to do all the time. So what draws you to that? Is it an experience that you had as a kid, maybe in church, or is it maybe a lack of experience, or just what is it that draws you in? I also want to preface it, like, you guys are in very different like age groups that you're working with. So I mean, even Josh being 5, 6, and we can go into Student Hope, but really just 5, 6, and then elementary and pre-K. I love how did y'all mean to sit in the order in which it
No.
stair step?
That's fabulous.
Yeah, well done, well done. Anyway, so what is it that got you there? Why kids ministry?
I think for me personally, just growing up in church, being, a part of a family that would work at churches, and so we were heavily involved. And so my mom was always in Next Gen ministry, and so that was just kind of ingrained into us. And I had parents that lived out their faith in the Monday through Saturday. And so for me, that really influenced me that, hey, my faith is not just a Sunday morning, but it's an everyday. But honestly, too, having small group leaders that were with me in the different phases. I remember in elementary, I had this guy, Kevin. He was our small group leader, and he was there every single week. And like, I always remember he was like worked in banking or something like that. I don't remember because this is, elementary age Josh.
Right. Oh,
but he like always had these like really like purple button-up shirts, and it was like he was like in his 20s, something like that, and he was just there for us, and he was just really consistent in showing up and pouring into us, and that just left an impact. It was like, hey, this person cares about me. And then just kind of every phase of life since then, and Next Gen, it was like, my middle school pastor told me, hey, like, I believe in you. God's got something more for you than you can even picture right now. And that really spoke to me. And I was like, Marshall Johnson was that guy, and I still get to keep up with him here and there, which is such a cool thing. But it was people that cared about me, poured into me, and were saying the exact same things that my parents were saying. It wasn't like, oh, like, we're cooler than your parents. It was like they were telling me the same thing, make wise choices,
that's so good.
That's awesome.
have a devotional, those kinds of things. And they really just said those same things, but they were cooler because they were, my small group leader and my youth pastor. And I love that. And so that just from that point on, it was like, I want to help other people, and especially the next generation, have that same relationship and help people step into that role of playing that as a small group leader.
Yeah. I appreciate you bringing all that to the table. I used to have conversations with your mom about what it's like to have your children growing up at church all the time, and do they get sick of it? And like, just having this fear that, I don't know, like, I'm going to ruin their perspective. I don't know. Anyway, and she was always so encouraging, and to now see that you have stepped into ministry full time, and it's just an encouragement to me that as long as we are pouring into our kids and loving on them and explaining to them the importance of Jesus and the importance of being here and serving and caring for people. I think that it's an encouragement to me that they will continue to do that when it is their choice to do it, when they have to make the decision, is this important in my life?
Right.
That's good.
Yeah, I think it's more so like them seeing you do it, not just say like, I'm about this, or I'm like,
such a good point.
It's putting action to your words, and them truly seeing you put yourself out there and do it because you love it and you love those kids. I mean, for me, I grew up in church, and I had a really good foundational for like elementary, middle school, and then we got to high school, and it was like there was not much for us. So when we first joined Hope Church, I was like, okay, student ministry is like where I want to be, because that was the gap for me. And those high school years are so hard.
For sure.
So to be able to jump into Student Hope and help those students through those hard times was really important to me. But then to see, like, it's so amazing here at Hope, because those students are so passionate and have such a heart for God.
They do.
And that all stems back from all those students. Majority of them have gone through Hope Kids. So that starts from the strong foundation in Hope Kids, and someone being there every step of their life and pushing them towards Jesus. And so that just kind of like, okay, if I enjoy that, let me go back to the beginning. It's like,
That
and
is
I can
so
be a
good,
part of all of
Savannah.
it.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I love that.
awesome.
Yeah, and that just affirms everything that you
yeah.
you have experienced in your
Right.
life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, for me, I think I chose preschool now that my children are grown because I have that mama's heart.
Yeah.
And for me, God has just laid on my heart. I see it's scary to come into church for the first time.
Yeah.
And we as parents
Yeah.
protect our kids. And we really we talk about how we want them to know about Jesus, but growing up for me, it was sitting in the pew next to grandma and the pastor saying things I did not understand. And then going home and not understanding anything, but just going on those little bits and pieces. And here at Hope Church, we are just so intentional from pre-birth all the way through, college age, so intentional about making sure that a kid has a safe place to belong with people who know them and know their name. And the things that we'll say at home, these leaders will say to them. And so for me, it's so important, when I see a mom come in and she's holding that carrier and you know that she's exhausted. We have 1 hour for for her to go into an environment where our pastor will speak in a way that she knows. And then she can hand over her child to people who will love and sing over that baby and pray over that baby. And as they grow, give them, opportunities to sing and worship in a way that they understand. And so my background is in early education. So I really think about the brain and how the brain is developing and make sure that I can fit a Bible story in a way that a kid will understand. And as they grow up, using senses or smells or taste or things that the average person who walks by a kid's environment is like, what could Jesus have to do with syrup? Or what could Jesus have to do with ping pong balls? But we're just so intentional that when a kid would see a ping pong ball or something like that, they would be able to say, that reminds me that Jesus made me wonderful.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
parents are like, a ping pong ball? And yes, because that's how the kid gets it.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. Okay, so you touched on what a parent can expect walking in. Let's say it's a parent who, like you said, has never been to church before, and they are terrified to give their kids over. What do we do in that situation to ease a parent's fears?
Well, our Hope Kids environment, the first thing is a huge fish tank.
Yes.
And so immediately it's, every child can go up and no matter, that age, they just walk up and we have fishies that look like Nemo or Dory and that are, and that's intentional as well. Everything we do is very intentional. And so I would say, get on their level and then say, hey, can you find Dory for me? She is missing. And as I'm talking to that child, we're making sure that the parent is talking to a volunteer with all the information that we would need to make sure that that parent knows that we know if your child has allergies. We know what they're afraid of. We know what their age is. We know what they're coming in with. And they do all that adult stuff over here while there is somebody who's meeting their child eye to eye on their level and talking to them about things that they know and love.
Yeah. Even as a parent coming in with kids who are, we know what class they're going to and all those things, having that fish tank, Tara, is the greatest thing in the world because both of my boys run straight to the fish tank while I can just have a little bit of my brain is concentrating on the computer and getting them checked in. And it's fabulous. And I feel sorry for the fish. They're very lively fish, but it's probably because they're running for fear or swimming for fear. Because my Kason, who's like a year and a half old, he's just beaten. So
it's a very, very, very thick glass.
It is.
That is
not
very true. Yeah.
And honestly, the fish really aren't phased anymore. They don't really scatter as much when you hit the glass that hard.
Good.
They're
Just
kinda,
used to the
They're immune.
It's normal at this point.
I think they'd be scared if they didn't.
Right. Oh, that's funny. But even in the nursing mom's room, there's a fish tank in there. And so when I have had to take Kason in there, it's so nice to have just a distraction, a sweet, peaceful, calm distraction. So yeah. Anything else to ease a parent's fear?
I was like, I think a big thing that we like to have is safety here, just kind of in general at Hope Church, but really specifically in our next gen areas. So, when a parent comes in, all of our volunteers, not just the kids volunteers, but every volunteer in all of Hope Church has a background check. And we do that because we want to ensure that no matter if someone's walking by, maybe they don't serve in Hope Kids, but they're walking, near a classroom, everyone is approved to be around children. And that's important. And that's important for a parent who is letting go of their child for an hour. That's intimidating and scary. And so knowing my child is safe that's a really encouraging thing. It's a lot of the practical side of things. We have a tag that goes on your child that matches yours so that when you come to pick up, you are picking up your child. No one can come and say, oh, I'm so-and-so's uncle and I just don't have my tag. I was supposed to pick up, little hoo-hoo. And it's just like, no, we don't do that here. We make sure that you match up, and we have a process that if you do lose your tag, which you shouldn't because it's a sticker. But if you do, there is a process through that. We don't just say, hey, go for it. And then at every one of our doors, it's a secure hallway. So we have one of our security team members there. We have our medical team that is throughout the church. So if there was ever an emergency that a Band-Aid can't fix, we have a team in place. So we have these different people all throughout our church and systems that help us alleviate those fears, because I think for a parent, it's so easy to be so nervous of like, this is my child. I mean, even for me, 7-month-old, when we came in, I know everyone. And I was still like, okay, I actually have to let Violet in for the first time. I'm handing it to, I was like, I'm handing Violet over to people that I know and I have relationships with. And, Carolyn's like, oh, we're going to have so much fun today. And I'm like, okay, like I trust you, but it's intimidating.
Should I stay?
Right. I know there's a level, when she's looking back at you and you're like, no, you're good. Right. And then, I need more reassurance than she does.
Yep.
But it's those little steps that we take. I think safety is important because it allows you to kind of not have to worry or think. While you're in service, you can worship without having to think about, is my child okay right now?
Yeah.
I think here what's really cool is, like, I think it starts, like, in the parking lot for that parent. Like, they're greeted by someone. It instantly breaks down a wall.
Yeah.
And then if they're new, they're walked into the building with someone. And, like, everything is so intentional, like, from the look of the building, lobby, the coffee bar, like, all these things just are helping that parent become more and more comfortable. And those walls are coming down as they're making their way in.
Yeah.
And then they get to Hope Kids, and you have even more volunteers who are there to help. And, that the kids, they're just excited because they see all these other kids. But then there's some kids who are, like, a little more hesitant. But then you have those volunteers who were like, okay, I'll give them a little bit more love and care. I mean, my own son, Birdie, he was, a little bit born after COVID. So he had not really been in, like, a Hope Kids environment before.
Right.
So when he started, he was really, like, hesitant. But there was just those few volunteers that just really took the time to, like, love on him and show him that extra attention, because there are kids that need it a little bit more than others. And, then it just kind of let him break down those walls. So then it allowed me to break down the walls and be more comfortable with, like, okay, he's good. He's going to be loved on. He's going to get a hug if he needs one, So it's like, it all starts, like, it's not just Hope Kids. It starts from the parking lot all the way to the Hope Kids. And I think that is, like, the biggest difference.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up. I love that. Yeah, she is. She is for sure. Okay. So, Savannah, what could I expect as a parent dropping my kid off in elementary school or in our elementary school hallway? What is my kid going to do? And that sort of thing. What is it going to look like? What is their morning going to look like?
Yeah. So, we're going to have volunteers in there that really love those age groups. Like, they just love that playtime. Like, if you walk by any of those rooms, you'll see the volunteers are, like, in the floor playing with the kids, linking logs, like, so just that first initial time that they're in there, they're going to have some free play just to kind of get warmed up, and volunteers getting to know everybody, names, and, you can throw a game in there just to break the ice, get everybody familiar with each other. And then we have time where it's large group, where we all get together with all the other classrooms, and it's basically a stem into what 5, 6, and Student Hope will look like down the road for them.
Yeah.
So it's, time of worship, and then they'll have a lesson and a fun game, and they'll all just get to hang out with everybody else that's around their ages.
Yeah.
And then once that's over, we break off into small groups, and they'll have that one-on-one time with their volunteer to really instill those lessons that are going to stick with them throughout the week.
Yeah.
And, those are very intentional lessons where, like she was saying, like a balloon, like a parent may not say, oh, well, how did you learn anything with a balloon? But all the curriculum is based around biblical truth. And, it is insane to me how like a kid can look at something and they're like, oh, yeah, I remember that at church that we learned, because fun things stick with kids more than like
Great point.
anything else.
Yeah.
That's just how their brains work. Their brains are focused around play. So I think that's the most important part of it, is just remembering they are kids. Like, you have to incorporate the fun, and also that's how they stick those lessons. So yeah, so then it's just kind of like hanging out, doing that until it's time for pickup. So
Yeah.
they have
Which
a great
sounds so
time.
fun. I feel like I would like to go this
I know.
week. No, I will say I can remember when I first started attending Hope Church, I served in first grade, which is really funny looking at like my life now, thinking that I was all in on kids ministry at the time, but I was. Anyway, and there was a volunteer who served in the third grade classroom, and I could see him like across the hall. And I think that this just in general, it speaks a lot to male volunteers in a kids area, because it just, I don't know, it's not as normal maybe.
Yep.
And it get just so impactful to have a strong male around. But, you know, talking about the time, like where you're on the floor playing with the kids and, you know, doing games and stuff, like during that initial, everybody's coming in time, I would look across the hall and Bill would be doing push-ups on the floor and kids would be like, how many kids can sit on his back before he collapses?
Right.
And I was like, man, third grade's so much cooler than first grade. Bill. Anyway, but yeah, I love that that's the model, and that those volunteers are there to connect with those kids, and that builds these strong relationships where they're excited to go see Bill. Like, I get to see Bill and we're going to learn about Jesus.
Right.
So you spoke to how elementary kind of lends itself to 5-6. So Josh, will you pick up at 5-6?
Yeah, so 5-6 is kind of a unique ministry that we do because it's for our preteen ages. So it's for 5th and 6th graders. That's where we get that name from. Because really what we notice is that 6th graders, or the 6th graders that were going into Student Hope, had a little bit of culture shock. And there's a lot when you're a middle schooler, when you go from 5th grade into 6th grade, there's a lot happening both with your hormones, your body is changing, your social life is changing, schools are changing. There's a lot of change that happens to you all at once. And so what was happening is we were having 6th graders come into Student Hope and just have culture shock in addition to the culture shock that they're already experiencing.
Exactly.
So they're going in there, and, you know, Student Hope is a little bit more discussion based. It's a little bit more, you know, it's less structured. And so they were kind of struggling a little bit in that less structure. So what we decided to do was, let's have 5th and 6th grade. Let's make that age group its own thing in order to allow them for those 5th graders to feel cooler for all intents and purposes. Because the reality is
important to them.
Yes.
with those 5th graders, they were in the elementary large group going, oh, those 1st graders are so little. And it's like, you're only a few years older than them. Relax. But in their mind, they're like, I am so far older than them.
I'm going to middle school next year.
Exactly. They're like, I don't need to be in here. So we made a space where we only do it 1 hour, and we do that intentionally to allow them to try their hand at serving and do different things. So a lot of opportunities come in Hope Kids pre-K.
Yes.
So a lot of our helpers, we don't give a full classroom to
I know.
a 5th grader. We don't do that. But we have them as our helpers. And so they'll be playing with the kids, and it kind of gets them that exposure of serving. And they can serve anywhere. They could serve with their parents in the parking lot if they wanted to, because we allow for that to happen, to just begin that culture of, okay, you're getting older, and we want you to be a part of the church, and we want you to take ownership. And then what we've started doing is we'll take them into the large group worship. So where we meet is right across the hall from Next Steps. And so it's a walkway into the main service. And that's to kind of, again, help them get exposure to what does a more adult service look like? How does it look like to worship, not just from our kids ministry, but now what does worship look like going forward and moving forward? And so it's a really unique time. And then we all come back and we still have lessons. Again, they're age appropriate. Because it's vital just that we're age appropriate in every stage. And then we begin to split boys and girls. And we do that intentionally too, because again, middle school age, girls you don't really want to be around necessarily as much. And girls are like, you know what, I don't really want those smelly boys in my room.
They smell bad.
And so, you know, that's the surface level. But then on a deeper level, it's like, hey, if you want to talk about things that are happening and you don't feel comfortable talking about it in front of a middle school boy, hey, we've created a space where there's a leader that is with you in a safe place that you can trust and not have some middle school boy going crazy. That'll happen down the hall. And so it's just a unique dynamic that we've really created. And I love it just because it helps that gap. It bridges a gap that we were just noticing was developing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tara, we kind of have gone backwards at this point.
okay.
I apologize.
No.
But again, my kids are in the pre-K hallway, and I know what to expect. But somebody who doesn't, what can they expect for their kids?
They can expect that the people that we have placed in those rooms truly care about your kids, and they will treat them as if they are their own, because we know that each child was made in the eyes of God, and that we want to honor that and make sure that that is what we're doing. And in our area, we do love a little bit more, and it's more of intentionality of letting that child feel safe and letting the parent, when they come in, know your kid is safe. Because as they get older, even starting in preschool, I don't know, as parents, you tell your kids something, they don't listen. You can have somebody else come in and say the very same thing, and they're like, oh, okay. And you're like, did I just not say that? Oh, my goodness. And so I find it just invaluable to have people who show up week after week to love your kid, to pray over your child, to let them know that Jesus made them, that he loves them, and he wants to be their friend forever. And also worship. We have worship, you know, even in elementary, we have worship. We have Ollie, who's an owl, and he's super fun, and we get to see him tell a Bible story, and then we see kids who are actually recreating that Bible story in a way that, you know, just like the Disney Channel or something. It's colorful, it's exciting, there's inflection in the actors' voices, and those Bible stories tend to stick.
Yeah.
And so it's super sweet to be able to see a mom who you can see her come in with one posture and scared, and then really kind of creep in. We'll see faces sometimes 10 minutes after drop off, and just, you know, are you sure? And I'll kind of give them a wink, yes. And then when they come back at the end of the service, you know, our prayer really is, Holy Spirit, speak to that parent. Allow there to be no distractions. Allow them to hear what you need to say to them in a way that's going to speak right to their heart. And then when they come get their kid, that they know that there was someone that showed up and prayed for your child all week. And during that service, prayed over your kid.
Yeah, that is so sweet. And I feel that. I feel that relief as a parent when I come and get my kids, and Levi's handing me a craft of some sort.
His hat last week, he would not. I put his hat on his cousin's head, and it was the same to me, but I'm 45. It was the same color. It was the same Bible verse. It was not the same hat. And so
no, ma'am, absolutely not.
He said, that is not Stetson's. That is mine. And I said, okay, I'm so sorry. Is this it? Yes. And I promise it was exactly the same.
I'm sure it was. Yes, I'm sure. He is quite particular. Yes. But as a parent, I love coming to pick up my kid and then being excited to give me, you know, hey, look at what I did. And it also warms my heart to see that he is developing a little more than he used. Like when he colors now, like sometimes it's a little bit in the lines, you know? Anyway, but for him to not only be able to give me that, and he's proud that he's made this thing, but to say, Mommy, this is how it relates to what I learned today.
Yeah.
And you guys also do a really good job of every week when I pick up my kids, I'm handed a parent cue. And I was looking at it yesterday. I had Levi sitting on the island, and I have the parent cue like posted to the fridge magnet right there. Yeah. Anyway, and so I'm getting him to say, "Hey, Levi, what's your Bible verse this week?" And you know, I'm cheating and I'm looking over here at the verse, but he's got all the words and the motions and everything. Yeah. And anyway, that's really helpful as a parent to just be able to keep returning to it throughout the week. Yeah. And so kind of share a little bit about the parent cue and what exactly we as parents have access to through that, if we choose to use it and continue the conversation, because that's the Monday through Saturday part that we talked about in the very beginning, and that's important, right?
This is the part of the podcast that I was waiting for.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Because being in preschool, it really is the connection with the parent. And Parent Cue is amazing. And as you talked about the papers, but let's be honest, some of us are in the season of life when we get that paper, it's underneath our van seat.
Oh, 100%.
Or it's used for, oh my gosh, you spilled something. and we're using the piece of paper in our van because I was in that season of life. But there is a parent cue that you can download on your Android or in the Apple Store, and it has drive time, so you can plug it into your car, Bluetooth it, and it will sing the worship song that we are doing for the month.
Yes.
And it will also give you, sometimes we don't know how to talk about our kid about the Bible verse, but we've got this 15-minute ride to daycare or to school. Yep. And so it'll give you prompts and ask you things for your child. Like if you were to see a little boy who had a car and you really wanted it, what would you do? And talk through. And it also gives us as parents things to say, you know, because sometimes we're like, oh, what's the answer to that?
Right.
And it even just kind of cues us up. It is exactly that, a parent cue.
Yeah.
So there's mealtime talks, there's drive time talks, there's either bedtime talks, right before they go to bed.
Time.
Bath time. Yeah. And so it has the songs, the Bible verse, the stories, everything. And that's the way that we can get Sunday to connect through to our Monday through Saturday until we do it again.
Yeah. I think that's helpful too, just because with so many parents, if you try and just give me like a million things, my day is already so full. Sure. But doing something during bath time, I'm already doing bath time. Yeah. I'm already driving to one place to the next. So it's like, here are some ideas to continue that conversation. And that's what I love, where it's not really adding more to your busy lives. It's just helping you with things that you're already doing and implementing that into your rhythm.
Intentionality into the rhythm. Yeah.
Exactly. As I was telling Savannah this morning when I came in, one of the elementary Hope Kids moms, I saw her in the grocery store and she said, I was asking my daughter what she learned at church this Sunday, and she said, well, we were blowing up balloons and the air came out and that was going all over the place. And she said, well, how does Jesus fit into it? And she says, well, I don't know. And the parent was kind of concerned, and I said, how many times do we ask our kids, what happened at school today? Nothing. Did you do nothing? Yep. And we know that they're there learning. So this parent cue would allow the parent to know what the Bible verse was. It was Jesus breathing life into the child. And if we're not spending time with Jesus or we're not praying, that we can get deflated. And so that was kind of the visual. But the kids aren't always in that hour going to get all of those details. But that's why Hope Church is so intentional of giving parents resources to say, the why behind the balloon is, and reminding them, just like we have to when they bring their homework home. This is why you do it this way, and this is the output. So at Hope Church, we're so intentional, just like at school or any other place, to make sure that we have a way to allow parents the resources to have those follow-up conversations.
Yeah, no, even with Birdie, like you say, I mean, they're not always like 100% paying attention when the lessons. So it's like to have those parent cues later in the week. It's like, oh, well, Birdie, do you remember this part about it? And he's like, oh, yeah. And then he's like telling me everything. It's like sometimes they just need like a little reminder, and then it's
prompting.
Like it clicks.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's like, oh, I can tell you all about that. And then it's exciting for them because they're like, oh, yeah, I do know that. Like, and I can talk about it to you. And you're impressed by what I know.
Right.
Like, awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, I was thinking when you were talking about sometimes the hour, it just doesn't always, you can't retain it all in the hour. Well, my kids, for the most part, get a couple hours in Hope Kids, right? Because volunteer kids get to stay throughout both services. And I think that there's a lot of times a fear of my kid is going to have a hard time being in church that long. But what I have found is that because, and I reference Levi, he's the oldest, he's my 5-year-old, but because Levi is there for both services and he's getting the same lesson but with different activities, there's more opportunity for the connection to be made in his head. And that is what I experienced, is that maybe this activity that we didn't resonate with you in the same way, but this one sure did, because you're telling me all about it and how it pertains. And so that's been really cool. But how many volunteers does it typically take on a given Sunday to pull off our kids ministry? How many would you love to have?
I would love to have everyone in the church serving in Hope Kids, if I'm being honest. Honestly, we would like to have, at the very least, 2 to 3 volunteers in each room. For each grade, or age range in pre-K. The reason why is because there's a lot of kids. There's a lot of kids in our church, and we're having kids all the time. Which is a great thing to have.
Yeah, there are so many ladies walking around with babies in their bellies right now.
I know. I was like, we're going to have a boom, and,
we are fixing to have a boom.
9 months from now. And, which is an exciting thing, but we need volunteers who are willing to say, hey, I want to be there, and not just be there every now and again, but be there every week. And the reason why we ask for, hey, we would love for you to be every week, because we want those kids to know you.
Yes.
It's really hard to, if I'm a kid, I'm coming every single week, maybe my parent serves, and my small group leader is different all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to relate to this person. I don't even really know them. I don't really remember their name.
Right.
But the leaders that show up week after week, those are the ones that are making an impact, and they're remembering your kid's birthday, and they're remembering, hey, you were really nervous about that math test that you were coming up. How did that go this week?
Yeah.
And just being able to do that. And we know that as people, we can only connect to so many people around us. Right. So when we have multiple people in our rooms and in our classrooms as small group leaders, they're able to kind of make that small group even smaller.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, where, I don't have to be responsible for remembering everyone's crazy week, but I can remember half the room's crazy.
Yeah.
And so really, it's for pre-K, we have ratios and things like that. If you want to get into the nitty gritty, and if we don't have enough leaders, we have to shut rooms down, because again, safety is important for us.
Right.
And so that the ratio number changes as they get older, but same thing, we want kids to be able to come. And for people serving, we have amazing volunteers, and I love our volunteers, but I don't want them to feel like I'm the only person who cares about kids in our church.
Yeah.
And I know there's a ton of you out there that care about the next generation.
Yeah,
so it's like, I promise you're going to make an impact if you just step in.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you guys have seen as having been in a classroom? Like, what are the light bulb moments that, like, you see a kid get it and it just fuels you, and you're like, this is why I do what I do. This is maybe something to brag on, so that somebody who's thinking about being a volunteer is like, oh, you know what? I could be a part of that. That sounds great. Do you have any of those moments? Am I putting you on the spot?
No, I was like, the one that comes to my mind, Holt Mahan. He was in fourth grade. And, I stepped in one day because, I needed to help that room for a little bit. And he was just, he's a super energetic kid, loves, everything. And that was right around the time that Move Up was happening. And so he's going to be jumping into 5-6. And so I was like, man, I'm so excited that you're coming to 5-6. And Carolyn Morningstar was his leader. And she was like, he has been talking about, serving and what that could look like. And I was like, well, it's perfect that I'm just here today, because we would love to get you involved. And he was like, I can really do that? And it was like, yes, and not only can you, but we want you to.
Yeah. Right.
And he does our first hour tech for elementary. So he'll be up in the sound booth. If you're, serving there, you can see him up there, and he's making the video lessons happen. He's making the slides happen. He's making it happen. Yeah. And he adores it every week. His parents have told me time and time again that he loves getting to do it, because he feels like he's a part of something, and he feels like, I'm not just coming to church to hang out. I'm coming with a purpose. Yeah. And then right after, I get to go to my small group where I get to be with my friends.
Yeah.
And I love that. That's a picture of, what we desire for every single kid that comes into our ministry is, I want you to get involved in the bigger church. I want you to be involved, because, there's no mini Holy Spirit. It's all the same Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that same Holy Spirit's in you as a 5th, 6th, you name it, age. And I just loved that, you saying, is there any stories? That just reminded me of Holt. And I was like, here's this kid who is making an impact and a difference, because his small group leader was pouring into him every week and said, hey, I think there's an opportunity for you to serve. And there was.
And to piggyback on that, Hope is the same one when I was in Hope Kids about 10 years ago here and went into the prayer ministry. So I was away from kids for a while, now back in Hope Kids, and Holt was in the preschool environment. That's how long it's been. And Joshua was standing there, and I said, that's no way that's Holt. And I said, do you remember me? And he said, kinda. And I said, Miss Tara was down that hall. He goes, oh, that's where I ate goldfish and learned about Jesus and sang a whole lot.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was like, that's exactly it. Like,
that was
the
goal.
As you're here as a student serving, and you know what that hall meant, and you learned about Jesus, and goldfish was the first thing he said, which was awesome.
Food, children and food, always.
He remembered that hallway as being where he ate goldfish, learned about Jesus, and sang a lot. And I think it's just absolutely incredible to see them stewarded from that young age, and then be serving here, and then in Student Hope is amazing.
Absolutely. Savannah, do you have a story or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit newer to this.
You are, yeah. Which means you have brand new, fresh perspective.
Yeah,
Which we love.
there was one little girl last week, Charlotte, in the first grade class, and we were it's been about wisdom this month, and we were just talking about like going over how their week was and all this stuff, and we made like pearls of wisdom the week before.
Yeah.
And they had got to take them home. They made like a little oyster shell with the little eyeballs, and
how
she was
cute.
like talking about how she just remembered that throughout the week, like, you know, the pearls are so rare to find in those, and that we're rare because we're, you know, made special by God, and we have these gifts. It was really cool to like see her remember from last week and like talk to me about it the following week, and that she felt like she, you know, got something out of it. And just that little reminder, even if it's just a little paper oyster shell, like it meant something and it stuck with her. So that was really cool. So,
and I'm sure like as a volunteer, as a child saying that and being able to recall that, oh, last week when it felt like it was chaos in this room because Johnny was doing this and, you know, Amy had fallen over there and, you know, tripped over something. And anyway, but Charlotte retained it, and it makes a volunteer feel like this isn't for nothing.
Yeah.
There's
purpose
this is
here.
happening, and God is using it. Okay, so my last question for you guys is, like you said, Josh, there are certainly plenty of people within our church who would be interested in jumping in and serving with our kids' ministry. What would you say to a volunteer, or no, sorry, not a volunteer yet, a potential stepping into volunteering for the first time? What would you say to somebody who is teetering on the idea of maybe I'll serve in Hope Kids? What would you say?
I mean, if you want to get really spiritual, there's a moment in Scripture where Jesus is telling the little kids to come, and the disciples are like, no, no, no. And he says, no, those of you who welcome the littlest, the children, welcome to me. So the spiritual answer is, if you want to welcome Jesus into our church, you serve in Hope Kids.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that's what Jesus said.
Yeah.
And that's going to make an impact. And I think impacting the life of a child just sets them up for a successful future. I mean, it just does. And being able to pour into a kid's life and just be encouraging and just let them know that, hey, the relationship that I have is real. And let me show you at your age how to start doing that.
Yes.
I think is powerful.
Yeah, going off that, like I feel like anyone who's looking to serve anywhere, I mean, these are the future of our church. I mean, it's not like, yes, you are important now, you are an important piece of the church, but that's our future. And I think Pastor Tad spoke on this Sunday just about how so many churches around us are dying because they're afraid of change. They're afraid of, you know, it's my way, I'm going to stick to this. It's all about my preference. And, you know, if you're not doing things and being intentional about bringing in kids and making them feel a part of it from early on, I mean, they're going to die out. They're not going to want to be a part of that. So I think just being so intentional and really pouring into the kids and just knowing that that's the future, that's what's going to lead our church into success and just striving towards the kingdom. Like, so we just have to really pour our heart and soul into our next generation, because if not, there's not going to be anybody left to teach the next generation and the next generation. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that I look at people and say, you know Jesus and you have a relationship. Can you imagine what it means to a single mom or a tired parent or someone who is just dealing with something and they need that hour, who you are to them? And I tell them all the time, there are going to be kids that line up in heaven when you're long gone and going to thank you for showing up week after week, because it was them investing in the faith of a child that got them to pivot towards Jesus. There will be parents that will line up in heaven to thank you for showing up for their kid because they wanted to stay at home and not go, but that they trusted you enough to give the kid. And that's the Sunday that Pastor Tad is able to speak into their heart, and they give their life to Jesus, change their home, and change the entire trajectory of their family. And you matter. Week after week, what you do, what you say, and who you are matters. And I promise you that you will get to heaven, and there will be people who will thank you for being a Hope Kids volunteer.
Yeah. I feel like coming off of this conversation, what an honor it is to wear a light gray Hope Team shirt
Yeah.
to represent Hope kids in that way. And I think truly every time, it's almost like when you see a police officer or when you see a military person, how you walk up to them and say thank you. I think that's really what we should do to every gray Hope
I agree.
team.
Yeah.
But because I mean, and I know these things, but it's so nice to hear you guys talk about it as well, of just how significant this Hope Kids ministry is for our church, and how it is really the foundation of growth happening here at Hope. So thank you guys for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I have a fun, like we usually, when we're ending the podcast, we like to throw in some questions. It's me. I throw in questions. And
All right,
sometimes, please don't
I know,
spit your
I've been drinking throughout
Starbucks
the whole
out.
time.
This is expensive equipment. I'm going to leave that.
Okay, yeah, that okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so but sometimes these are like would you rather questions or like just trivia kind of thing. But this is going to be a have you ever. So
Okay.
I want you to yes or no. Okay, the question, and if you have a response that I'm intrigued by, I will provoke. I will dig in. I will dig in a little deeper. Okay. All right. Have you ever tried or succeeded in getting into the wrong car?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
I don't think so.
No, y'all are pretty good at knowing your own cars.
Well, I mean, I've definitely done the thing where I go up to a car and I pull the handle and I go, "That's not me," and then walk away. But I've never successfully gotten in by doing that.
Have you successfully gotten in?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
And my daughter opened the door and went, no, no, no. And I said, get in, we got to go. And she said, it's not our car. And I looked and I was like, oh, it's not our car.
Let's get out of this car and find ours.
And it wasn't even in the same row. I mean, it was the same store, I'm pretty sure, but it wasn't even close to where my real vehicle
Was it the same color and make
Oh,
and
yes,
model?
it was.
Okay, all right. Well, that's
That
good.
was. That,
I think that's for me. I've always drove a vehicle that is not like anybody else's.
Right.
Like my first vehicle was a 93 F-150, bright red with big wheels and tires and jacked up. And now I drive a lifted white Jeep. So like, there's no like really mistaking that with like a Hyundai Sonata or
it's
something.
pretty.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty it stands out.
Yeah. I mean, I know my vehicle a mile away when I see it.
Well, that's good. Maybe that's the ticket,
Mine
Tara.
was a burgundy minivan, so there's
Yeah,
Plenty.
there's a lot.
For sure. For sure.
It's understandable.
Okay, next question. Have you ever worn the same clothes like all week?
No.
No.
No? No?
I have.
Okay, yeah. I feel like this was, I didn't.
I have.
Okay.
So I worked at Disney in 2019, and we had the same uniform, but when I was on an opening team of Galaxy's Edge, and so they didn't have that many extra uniforms. And so they just gave it to us, and it was opening week, so we were there at like 4 a.m. and there until 11 p.m. So there wasn't a whole lot of free time. It was a fun experience, you know. I don't miss that. But yeah, my costume, as it was, which was my uniform, I basically wore the same for a whole week, and
you
it was smelly, and because it's Florida, and
Yeah, and you
gross,
sweat.
but,
Yeah. And you had to be careful not to spill your drink on it. And
yeah.
okay.
So then, but I did eventually, you know, we got out of. I didn't do that the whole time, you know.
It wasn't an entire summer of the same.
No.
Okay. Okay.
It was that opening week, so yeah.
Literally 1 week. Okay, that was a great answer to this question. All right. Have you ever given a fake name at a coffee bar or restaurant when it's like time to put in your reservation or, you know, that sort of? Yes, Tara is shaking her head. What is the name? What is your go-to name?
Larry always does Batman.
Yes.
Every time.
Yeah, that's
And-
what I was hoping for.
And so I
character.
will do Batgirl. And it really just, especially at Chick-fil-A, they get the biggest kick. And you'll go to get your food like, are you a Batman? Are you sure you're Batman? And we'll always say, have you seen us both in the same place?
Ah, that's
And
cute.
Just
kinda
kind of
fun.
get
Yeah,
the
like a-
smile on their face. But he's
That's
Batman and I'm Batgirl.
That is
Yeah.
fun. I like it.
And my teenager doesn't think it's fun.
I'm sure she wants to hide
Probably
under.
did when she was
the
younger,
table.
and now
Yes,
she's
now
like, I'm
it's
over
terrible.
this.
Yeah.
My husband just likes to embarrass me with the craziest voices in the drive-thru.
Oh my gosh.
Like
Nice.
either extremely country accent or like this high-pitched voice. Like he thinks it's hilarious, especially like if I'm driving and he'll like holler out something like, "Hey, give me a tater tot," you know, like something crazy. And I'm like, by the time I get to the window, I'm like, just ignore him.
Get out of the car, Tanner. Get out of the car. That is fun.
Prank caller.
Okay, have you ever attended your high school reunion? I am like anti high school reunion. I do not do that. No?
I'm not even at 10 years yet.
My 10-year was last year, and no one did anything. So I was like, I might have gone, but there was nothing. So no.
All right.
Tyler was born at my 10-year high school reunion. I didn't go, and then after that, it just lost its fizz.
Yeah. Why would I go now?
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been in a band?
No.
I really anticipated one of you had been in a band.
Really?
No.
Who
Yes.
did you think of us had been in a band?
Honestly,
Which band?
my brain went to the two of you. So either
Doing
Josh
what?
or Tara. I don't know. I just
Use like
assumed-
a
drummer
Any
or
kind of
guitar
band.
player.
I would love to be good at instruments
start a
and music.
band.
We should start a band.
I mean, have you
Kids
considered
band.
worshiping
Kids
or auditioning for the worship team? Then you
That's
could have
all
been a
my
part of
daughter.
the
No.
band.
We gotta do
Live
that.
worship for large group.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's true.
hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Does kids like praise team count as a band?
What are there instruments? Live instruments?
No, my
Okay,
voice.
well,
You need a name, Josh.
Yeah.
You need a name for a band.
Okay, y'all work on that. Okay. All right. Last one. Have you ever lied about your age?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. I want to hear. What you got? Like, why,
Anytime
in
someone
what
asks how old
situation?
I am.
Oh, every time? Every
No,
time I lie about my
No,
age.
not every time, but I do. And people will say, "How old are you?" And I'll say, "How old do you think I am?" And then if they're really high, I give them this, "Really?" And if they're really low, I'm saying, "Pretty close." Yeah, yeah.
That's about
But
right.
then I don't lie because I am that age plus how many other years, they just didn't say
Right.
it. Yeah.
That's good logic.
get it
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. And
you
any
lie?
particular reasons that y'all lie?
You know,
or
just being a high school student, like, oh yeah, I'm 18 or, you know,
Uh-huh.
I'm older than I am, but I have a baby face, so there's not much pulling it
You
off.
do look
Yeah.
so young.
I do remember one time I was wearing an Elon shirt because I grew up in the town of Elon and I attended like a volleyball camp at Elon. So
Sure.
I had all this like Elon apparel. And I was in Greensboro at the time for something. I think I was shopping or something. And a guy asked me, he's like, "So you like Elon?" And he was assuming that I was an Elon student. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's a great place. Yeah. I'm like a college student. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you for
Right.
thinking that of me." Anyway, Josh, do you have a good...
No, like specific story, but I've definitely lied. Tried to say I was older than I was because, like, especially early on in ministry, you're seen as like a child, and so I was like,
for
I don't
sure.
know, I'm like in my late 20s, which was not true. I was, 20.
25.
Yeah.
I'm actually just in the middle, but 20, late 20s. Yeah, that's me. Okay, guys. Thank y'all. Y'all have been fun. Silly Straws, I think, would have topped it off.
Yeah.
Next time.
Next
Right.
time. I'll prepare better next time. Okay. Thank y'all for being here. Y'all are
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.